The third page, pages 1 through 3 are correct. And when I say 1 through 3, I'm including the cover letter to the judge, the introduction, and then the third page, which starts at the top, Grand Jury Report, Lassen County Health and Social Services, Environmental Health. And those 3 pages are in the correct order. It's the next page that should be withdrawn from there and kind of shuffled into the deck behind the following page. Did I get that right? Did I get that right?
No.
There's a pagination error, in other words. And they are all there, but it appears that the follow-up to the draft report dealing with health and social services, in particular the recommendations, actually comes 3 pages later. Is that right? Sorry, 2 pages later. Yes, 2 pages later. So it should go from, at the bottom of page 3, recommendation number 1, strive to obtain funding for unfunded mandates from the federal and state governments, and it should continue, skipping the next page, to the top of the, what's that, 5th page? Response comment. This recommendation has already been implemented. That's how that should go. And
You
think?
It's going to get confused.
I could do this in 5 minutes' time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me which.
Sure. Take page 4 and put it behind page 5.
Yeah.
That's it.
Page 4.
Yep.
Just change the numbers on the
Which is this page right here?
I can't see it in that page. It says at the top, Lassen County Building Planning Services, Grand Jury. Yes. Take that and put that behind the next page. That's it. That's it. And I don't know if the PDF was correct and it got messed up in the copy process that went to you all, but I think the PDF was correct.
Okay, Aaron, back to you. Did you find it over here?
No, I'm sorry, Mr. Rumble.
That was a major one because I was confused.
Yeah,
I was
yes.
gonna say
It
we
read
can
out of
put this
order.
in much better order. Okay, so maybe that'll help answer my questions then for finding number 5 on page 3. There are free services provided which environmental health could collect these fees. So now, let me go back and see it. Yeah, like, could we identify which ones those could be?
And I'm sorry, can you more clearly specify where you are?
Page 3,
Yes, sir.
down on finding number 5, down toward the bottom.
Oh, I see. There are some free services provided for which environmental health could collect fees. Well,
Yeah.
now, those aren't my words. Those are the words of the grand jury. That is the conclusion, the finding they reached. They stated, and that's why it was in quotes, there are some free services provided for which environmental health could collect fees, unquote. And the draft response is that the Respondent Board of Supervisors agrees with the finding, and I think if you read the content of the report, you'll see that they are referring to septic inspections, if I believe,
Mortgage inspections.
mortgage inspections and septic in particular, that have, and that's on the agenda today, isn't it?
That's on the agenda for later.
Yes, so that historically the department has provided free of charge inspections as a courtesy to mortgage companies who would like that certification in order to make transfers of property. I think that's the
So anyways, just in the response, other than agree with it, I mean, that's fine, but it'd be nice to have a little more substance than we agree with the finding, you agree with the finding. I mean, that's just like that.
The finding is somewhat nebulous,
Right.
but when you take the finding and you put it in context of the remainder of the report, at least in their mind, it was specific enough.
Okay. And then you, after you got this cleaned up, the rest of it reads much better and much more concise, and I think that answered my question. I was getting a little confused with the other item H3, which I have some questions on coming up later on.
Okay.
But that was my only question on this one, was if we could identify which ones we may do like next year.
And again, I think that they're correct me if I'm wrong, is there not also a recommendation that relates to that?
I think so.
I think there is.
Sorry to obtain funding for unemployment.
Not that one. Yeah, recommendation number 4. Establish a fee schedule for some of the inspections currently done for free, especially those requiring re-inspections for non-compliance and those done for mortgage companies on property sales. That is the recommendation set out by the grand jury, and then the response comment is, although it's not been yet implemented, it's expected within the next reporting period, these matters will be presented to this body for consideration. In fact, that's on board today.
Oh, okay.
Did I answer your question, sir?
You did, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Okay, more questions? No. Public, anybody have any questions on the grand jury report? On our response? Seeing none, we have a motion to approve the grand jury response to the grand jury report.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Under discussion, can we make sure when this is sent to the grand jury that it's proper stacked?
I'm going to go, and I'm going to, before before you vote on your motion, I'm going to include in the original document that I'll ask the chairman to sign page numbers.
Can I,
Yeah, page number really well.
Yes.
Ken, two things. First of all, your response, draft response to recommendation number 2 dealing with the compensation of basically the environmental health folks, which up until recently, they were state employees and they were paid a state wage through the state, and we had these contracts. So they were used to be paid up here, but then the state kicked them out of the state budget basically, and that's when, and they ended all the contracts, and so then the county basically had to create near positions, and you know the difference between a county employee and a state employee is huge, and the state knows that, and they've created this 2-tier system, because in essence really county employees are just low-cost state employees, because we're agents of the state, we're an extension of the state bureaucracy. And so, right at the get-go, the employees that were used to being paid at a state level, now we're going to be paid at a county level, and that has created recruitment issues and all kinds of other issues with the functioning of that department. Okay, so that I don't think comes in here, but I like the fact that you put in there, though, that it's been a balancing act since, has been ongoing since the formation of the counties. I mean, this is age-old, it's a 150-year struggle in terms of this 2-tier system that we have for public employment in California. And I think maybe it would be good to provide some insight as to why that 2 tiers exists. Or maybe this isn't the time and place, but at some point maybe we could see the grand jury be given some orientation. And that's what stimulated the problem, that is the genesis of that finding and discussion. The other thing is the grand jury report is always published in the paper every year. And it's been kind of a pet peeve of mine that when we do the responses, our responses, I mean, other than maybe be part of a news article or something, are not published. So it's not a matter of record. And I know a couple times here in recent years, and I mean, it costs us money. It comes out of the treasury, but basically space is bought in the paper. Paper won't do it for free. I don't expect them to. But as it's so, in other words, these 4 pages in the correct order would be put into as some sort of an ad or insert. It wouldn't necessarily have to be an insert, but an ad where it says, okay, this is what the grand jury found, and this is the response, so that the newspaper, which is a matter of public record, okay, there's a clear historical record saying that at this time, at this place, this board made this response to those findings that they made, so that people who follow that or research that don't just go along and say, oh, well, look at all these issues that came up, and if they find a news article that might relate to it, they may be able to discern what the official response is. And I think that would be in everybody's best interest.
If that's the pleasure of the board, we
I
can get that done.
I would hope it would be.
Actually, we did that.
We've done it in the past, but that's not included now. And some people may think these are minor issues, and in comparison to some of the issues we've had to deal with, this is relatively minimal, but I think even these issues deserve the same attention. And the same
So I don't, and maybe I missed it, but I don't recall seeing the grand jury report come out in the paper.
Oh, yeah.
It may have happened, I
It's
just
like
don't
an
remember.
insert that they do it every year.
Yeah.
And-
All right.
Mr. Chairman, can I amend my motion?
You can, sir.
I would like to move that we approve these recommendations and that they are published to the newspaper.
Yeah, and we publish like you do it's like a legal notice type thing, so. I think what they did before is that we bought like a display ad and it was like maybe a half a page or a third of a page and it had all the information. I'm sure the paper would be more than happy to sell you the space.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion?
Yes, question?
Council?
What budget line item is that out of CA?
It comes out of county council's budget.
Chamber of Commerce?
Yeah.
Sorry, I couldn't help.
No, we have a publication budget and it
Yes, sir.
pays for publications and I think that's what paid
So do
for
we.
it in the past.
We will let the CAO figure that out.
Yeah, it's, you're not talking about a huge amount of money, probably not even $1,000, but it could be, so.
Questions from the public? Yes, ma'am.
I like this idea, but given the fact that there's been several months that the grand jury are people going to understand or relate to the response? I mean, could it be,
It's only been 6 weeks since the report came out.
anyway,
Pretty fast and government.
is it, are we just wasting $1,000 if you publish something and people can't relate to it, that
No, I don't think
you're
so.
answering?
No. And I'm surprised it coming from you, for one, all this transparency, but I mean.
No,
all this transparency,
I
to a
preface-
point.
I
dollars
said
don't
I'm in
matter.
favor of it.
Okay.
But my question is, does the board need to put something about the grand jury's response so your response makes sense to the public?
I think we can figure that out.
Well,
reference
in the past, there was a
web-based.
heading on it. The grand jury report was basically released around the 1st of August. It was in the newspaper as an insert, I want to say around the middle of August. This is the middle of September. So it's within a matter of, 4 to 5 weeks. And it would, I think the heading on the, whatever we put in there as an ad or whatever, the board, the county's response to the recent grand jury report. And if it strengthens people connecting the dots who can't connect the dots, you might even reference that to the Lassen County Times issue of August, whatever the date is, the insert that was part of that issue, so it allows people to go back and find that if they need to. But it doesn't matter, because we're going to say what they recommended, and we're going to give our response to
Okay.
it. So it's a reiteration
Okay, that's
of
what I was asking.
Well, that's what this here is that's what all this is. This is what they recommend, and this is what we
Thank you,
respond.
Bob. Thanks.
Enough discussion, we're going to move on.
We have to vote on it, don't we?
Yes.
Enough
Yes, we do,
discussion.
that's what I mean, we're going to move on to vote.
Madam Clerk, do you have a motion?
We have a motion.
Do you have your second?
We have a second.
Yes, and
Okay.
Call the motion.
He amended his motion.
He amended the motion, Mr. Bill amended his motion to approve the money for the CIO's personal budget. What Bixby call that,
It's
black
all my
box?
budget. We'll work it out.
Is that Bixby's black box too?
Yeah, it was Bixby's black box.
Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no, the ayes have it. Thank you, everybody, for
Thank
your
I think, excuse me,
Yes,
so for the
everyone,
next item,
two.
conflict.
Can you note that, please? Thank you.
H2.
Yes, H2, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, is a follow-up from last week's discussion related to the Bass Hill and Herlong landfill sites and the patent application process that is at least initially started by the Solid Waste Management Authority. And this board's indication that it wanted to essentially intervene in that process as the principal recipients of title to the 160
Well, I
in the
don't,
Herlong
I
site.
don't think it's the question of intervening. I think we're the responsible party
Yes.
and have the responsibility to take care of this. So
And to that end, I drafted a cover letter for the chairman's signature if approved by the body. And then there's the attached indemnification provision. As we know from our friends at BLM, this goes nowhere without executing the indemnification provision.
Well, I think the other process that was being pursued independently by Mr. Valentino on behalf of the JPA for the Solid Waste Authority wasn't really going anywhere, so in order to get this back on track, this is the process that should have been followed to begin with, and both Tom and I sit on that JPA representing the board, and we counseled them then and we counsel them now, but in order to expedite, I would move, Mr. Chairman, that you be authorized to sign both the letter and the indemnification on behalf of the county so that we can take care of the business of the Solid Waste Authority.
Second. Motion is second. Any discussion? Questions from the public? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Ayes have it. H agreed.
And Mr. Millar is totally thankful that we have a JPA because up until 1998, his job would have been the one responsible for doing this without going through that extra layer. So.
Mel, would you ask Richard yet?
Yeah.
Thank you.
He's sitting there going, I don't have to deal with that anymore.
Neil, you're on.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, board members, Melody Brawley, Director of Health and Social Services. So, as we discussed briefly in the grand jury response issue, there are some things that environmental health that we need to address. This is just one of them. This is only a partial. It's only a partial response there. The Environmental Health Department, as indicated, has been doing what we call mortgage inspections since the 70s. So a mortgage inspection basically is an inspection of the septic tank and the leach system, and then a well inspection. And those are required by law, or actually they're required by the lender rather than law, but they're not required. It's not required for the Environmental Health Department to conduct those. They liked to do them in the 70s when it was all funded by the state. They had plenty of staff. They were all we had a nice budget, everyone could do this. And it helped them document the whereabouts of a lot of wells and leach systems and septic systems in the county that really hadn't been well documented before. So it was really good to get all that stuff down. But at this point, we were kind of at the return on our investment of spending our time on these it's just not panning out. And with Alan having left at the end of April, and I've had only one applicant for the position of director, and when I called for an interview, that one didn't call me back. I'm really short-staffed. I have Doug Ames there, a retired annuitant, and he's made it very clear that he likes being retired and doesn't want to continue working for us. We're very lucky to have him there. He's got a wealth of knowledge, and he really understands where everything is and how it works in Lassen County. But in the meantime, one of the things we can do is something about these mortgage inspections. They're not required of us to do them. And anyone in the county who is a well driller, a certified well driller, or septic installer is qualified to conduct these inspections. There's a price for that. We've been doing it for free. And they're certified, they're qualified to sign off on that certification and submit it to the lender. So we have a couple of alternatives we're offering here. We could continue doing the mortgage inspections at the Environmental Health Department at the request of the realtors, but we need to charge a fee so that we can begin to get some revenues back in. Now, what I suspect is that, in fact, I'm fairly sure that if we charge a fee for these, it would never amount to the cost, and I would have a difficulty even if I generated enough funds to hire another staff. I'd have a difficult time hiring those staff. So I don't know if that's a good alternative, but it is an alternative. We'd be happy to look at what fees are charged by the private sector and kind of align our fees with that.
Well, if you're hiring a position for that purpose, I don't think so. But this is kind of like one of those duties is assigned that's on the side. The primary responsibility of that particular position is taking care of a whole range of other issues.
Exactly, but I have experienced difficulty after difficulty just filling the positions I have.
Yeah.
And if we are going to do this as a real business and charge fees for it, then I really need another person. It's taking up a lot of our time now.
What's amazing to me is over the years, the departments have never been at loss to tax anything that moves without a fee. If you make a left, to the point where it's in the clerk's office, and Crystal can cover her ears, but when you go to the counter and you say, I need this document, and they count how many paces it takes them to get to the file cabinet to find the document, and then so many paces to the copy machine to copy it, and back. That's what all the time motion studies were done by all the departments. The clerk's office is one of numerous ones that does the.
Well, may I suggest those were done by general fund departments?
Yeah, by general fund departments, and that, in terms of determining, because the law only allows you to collect what the real cost is, so knowing, and then you figure out all the time and spaces, and then you divide that into whatever their salary, that gives you what the cap is for a fee. And the state is probably even more vociferous when it comes to taxing anything that moves in terms of generating a fee. So it's amazing to me that for over 40 years we would have a state employee. As long as the state was paying for it, nobody even paid attention to this issue. Now that the state's out of the picture and we're paying for it, now all of a sudden we're having to deal with the reality that for over 40 years we had state workers that were nested in basically the county bureaucracy that was providing this as a convenient thing on the side, and nobody was collecting anything that was moving, either the state or us.
We had more staff then, we had a bigger budget then, because it was state.
It was all state funded,
program.
yeah. So the revenue that would have been generated by a fee on this area would have been basically a revenue that ultimately would have offset the state. It wouldn't be coming to us anyway. But now we're dealing with it. We've got to deal with the reality of what it costs to do it.
And for me, I prefer alternative 2, but I'm happy to implement either one. Alternative 2 is just for us to just continue providing mortgage inspections and let the private sector take it. Because there are guys out there who are qualified to do this. They're available to do it much more quickly than we are, because we've got a full boatload of work already, and these just go on the list and they have to take low priority compared to restaurant inspections and the things that are required of us by the state. So, and often the mortgage company or the realtors are calling us up saying, when are you going to get out here and do this inspection? We really want to close this deal. I totally understand. But we have to take care of our priority business before we can take care of something that's really not our job. So those are the 2 alternatives, and as I said, we're happy to do either one. Just looking for some direction from you, and I'm happy to answer any questions I'm able to answer. Please keep in mind that I'm not an environmental scientist.
How many well drillers and septic system installers do we have in the county?
I don't know, but one of the things that Doug and I talked about is meeting with the realtors and providing them with a list of these folks, and most of them already know them because when they get tired of waiting for us, they call them anyway. And then talking to them about how it works, because there seems to be a misunderstanding that the certification has to be done by the health department, and it doesn't. It can just be done by a qualified well installer. And so then what they're doing is paying to have
If we
it.
have a list with just 1 or 2 people on it, then I'd be kind of concerned, because now you basically create a pseudo-monopoly. But if we have a list that has a number of people who would be qualified to do this or whatever, I'm of the opinion that we ought to let the private sector take care of it and not be a part of it. But that requires you having a private sector that's available to do it, that's got capacity.
So the well drillers are gonna police themselves? They're gonna go inspect the leash lines to make sure they're not too close to the.
Well, the
well
septic
and,
installers do
the septic inspection.
septic and the
And then
leach
the well
lines.
drillers do, okay.
Yeah.
So any license,
And then they have to have the well tested.
so any licensing on the well driller or septic system guy can write off, can sign off on this certification?
Yes.
Turn it over to the private sector.
Yeah.
So there's a hook that comes with that as well, Mr. Supervisor. If you're a private contractor and you certify and you're licensed and bonded, and
Right.
it turns out not to be the case,
Right.
you have some exposure.
Yeah.
And likewise, the other side of the hook is that if the county provides the service and there's a dispute amongst, and we do it for free or we do it for a de minimis amount, and there becomes, I've never heard of this happening here, but in
Never
some
know.
sort of a land sale transaction, the parties become aggrieved with each other, and it's about, the inspection or the condition of that which was inspected. It could draw us into something we wouldn't otherwise want to be in. But again, haven't heard of that. It's just a possibility.
So we have already some requests in there, and we will begin phasing those out, and we'll also work with the realtors to let them know that as of January 1, we will no longer take requests for mortgage inspections. And we'll, if I know the Realtors Association has a meeting, we'll meet with all of them. We'll do whatever we have to do to make sure they're all educated and comfortable with this. But I do think that's the best alternative for us because I just don't have the staff, and it's not looking like I'm going to get a whole lot of staff right away. So.
Okay, do we have a motion to support that?
I would move to discontinue providing mortgage inspection service and allow the business to be absorbed by local well drillers and water pump and septic system distributors.
Second.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any more discussion with the board?
All third.
Any discussion, questions, vote? Iona.
Can I ask her a question? Iona McCain.
As long as it's not scientific.
That's what
I'm
about?
just kidding. I might be able to answer, but I'm not guaranteeing anything.
Okay, what about the percolation? Because I know that there was a bill on our property. Tom Weeks up on the mountain, and there was a lot of ash and stuff, and they had to do a percolation test before they could put their leach line in, and also the septic. Is that what you're going through? I mean, it has to.
Yeah, some of them are simple. Some of them require a lot of work, and I don't have the staff to
I
do
know.
it, and we don't
You're
get
right.
reimbursed for it. So.
You're right. Thank you.
Anything else?
Any questions? Seeing none, vote, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Ayes have it. Thank you, Mel.
Thank you.
Number 4, road grader, I've seen that before.
Round two, Larry.
Larry Millar, Public Works. Yes, Public Works Department went back and requested updated quotes from both Cashman and Papay Machinery off of the State of California Department of General Services CMAS contract. This time we requested pricing for comparable motor graders as we did before, except this time we asked for standard tires and a 5-year extended warranty period. Cashman Equipment did a CAT 12 M3 all-wheel drive motor grader off the CMAS contract for a total cost of $331,100, which included a warranty of 12 months, unlimited hours, free travel time, plus an extended service coverage out to 60 months for 3,000 hours, whichever occurs first. Papay did a 672G John Deere 6-wheel drive motor grader off their CMAS contract. Total cost of $321,625.02, which included a standard warranty of 12 months, unlimited hours, free travel time, plus an extended warranty for 60 months for 2,500 hours, whichever occurs first. Both of these are fully compliant engines, similar size horsepower, they have similar accessories. The only difference in the warranty, they were both 5 years. Cashman had a 3,000 hour, John Deere had a 2,500 hour. Based on our usage of our motor graders, out of our 12 motor graders, 5-year range was from 300 hours up to 1,870 hours for a 5-year period. So we don't expect to run this grader anywhere near the 24-hour notation. So the 5-year warranty will basically be what we're looking at. We have operated both of these graders and feel that they both are superior quality. Due to the pricing, we recommend to John Deere.
Okay, thank you, Larry. Any questions for Larry on this? I thought we got a pretty good discussion last week. Kind of John Deere was the one to go with. Me, anyhow.
Well, maybe all the fuss was worth it. You got standard tires.
Sharon?
The only question I have is on the sales tax. I mean, can we get an ag exemption on some of that because you're going out and following the rules?
Afraid not.
Nice shot.
Richard?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we did a little research on, I know the tire issue was a big item of discussion last time we met. So I asked staff to contact the local tire shop and determine what the real difference was. And it turns out the gross cost of the Michelin high-quality tires is $1,500 per tire. That's the total gross cost, so that you get $9,000 difference, and I know that was indicated to be more like a $20,000 difference, and so I wanted to clarify that with the board.
Thank you. What's the pleasure of the board? The man in the back. Come on, state your name for the podium.
Yeah, Mike Hart, Casper Equipment. I just wanted to clear that up. It wasn't just the tires, it was the tire difference, the warranty difference, the wing difference. You know, it was like, I think with the 23